Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Enrique de Obarrio. I am a former president of the US-Panama Business Council, and tonight I shall serve as MC and moderator for this major event that we have organized for you, entitled Reaffirming US-Panama Relations Beyond COVID-19. We have been facing a worldwide crisis due to the coronavirus pandemic, an event like nothing our generation has experienced in the past. The loss of hundreds of thousands of human lives and the setbacks in our economies, the closure of many businesses, and the alarming increase in the level of unemployment have rocked the boat of normal life and given rise to a tempest. But it is a tempest which shall pass. And as we get closer to calm waters, we must work hard to rebuild our economies to get them back on track. And most importantly, help those having the greatest need of our aid to get back on their feet again and to be productive for the benefit of their families and themselves. These are trying times which require good partners working together. The idea behind this event is to reaffirm said sense of partnership on the occasion of USPA's 25th anniversary and to reaffirm US-Panama relations beyond COVID-19. To that end, in addition to welcoming and opening remarks, we have assembled a distinguished group of panelists. And now, for his welcoming remarks, I turn you over to Walter Luxinger, current president of USPA Panama.
Good evening, I'm Walter Luxinger, president of the US-Panama Business Council. Welcome to tonight's event that was prepared on the occasion of our 25th anniversary. USPA was founded in late 1994 to promote a positive image of Panama after decades of dictatorship and also to enhance commerce and investments between the two countries. We are a binational organization that makes us unique. We're headquartered in both the United States and Panama, and all our members are business groups. To name a few, the Panamanian Association of Business Executives, the Panama Banking Association, the Association of Realtors, the Association of Insurance Companies, and even US-based Association of the United States Army, to name a few. We're living through very challenging and difficult times from both the health and economic aspects. It's time to join forces, one team, one fight, with our historical partners. That's why we prepared this event today, reaffirming US-Panama relations beyond COVID. We will start with messages with high-level State Department and Minister of Foreign Relations in Panama, followed by two capstone narratives of the 25 years of USPA from the perspectives of one USPA president and one USPA president from Panama. And finally, a panel of highly distinguished executives, one from the public sector of the investment office, and two from the logistical sector, the Panama Canal and the COPA Airlines. And finally, CEO of a very distinguished multinational corporation in Panama. We as USPA would like to see more US companies with presence in Panama, more companies participating in our mega projects. That hasn't been the case in recent years. We want to change that. That's why we're here tonight. We envision this event to be the first of a series of events in the near future. So welcome all of you and enjoy tonight's program.
Thank you very much, Walter. Indeed, joining forces with our historical partners is what USPA has been promoting for over a quarter of a century now. And here with us to share USPA's history and achievements for the past 25 years, we have the remarks of Roberto Alfaro and Juan Sousa, both of whom are former ambassadors of Panama to the United States. Let us all welcome now Ambassador Roberto Alfaro. Roberto.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to share with us this important occasion. The U.S.-Panama Business Council is a binational organization celebrating 25 years of activities. Being a non-profit organization, our events are financed by members and private donors. The U.S. chapter is now presided by Ambassador Juan B. Sosa, and our chapter in Panama presided by Engineer Walter Lutzinger. USPA has been a key player in our nation's achievement in attracting more private investment than the rest of the 5 Central American countries added together. When necessary, we have organized lobbyist groups either in Panama or in the USA to obtain the support of our authorities. One example was the sanction of the Agreement for Trade and Investment, signed by Honorable Carla Hills, U.S. Trade Representative, and yours truly, in a special ceremony in the White House in the presence of President George W. Bush, who visited Panama a year later. Another achievement in 2003 was obtaining an essential letter of endorsement in favor of the U.S.-Panama Free Trade Agreement signed by 30 senior members of U.S. Congress. Several companies now established in Panama are consequences of our events, such as the Panama Week in Washington, D.C., or conducting country presentations to chambers of commerce of Houston, Florida, Atlanta, New York, or Louisiana. Just last year, we were honored with the 2019 Robert F. Coughlin Award for significant contribution of our group to the Association of the United States Army. This recognition was presented to us in Panama by its Chief Executive Officer, General Carter Ham. Our members always work as a team in organizing, funding, and preparing events. An important ally, General George Yalwan, ex-Commander-in-Chief of the Southcom and of NATO, proudly salutes our members with the slogan, "One team, one fight." Recently, we received the nomination of a new ambassador to Panama, Mr. Eric Bettel. He is an ex-World Bank executive on investment and financial activities in emerging markets. It's just precisely what our Financial and Logistics Center have been preparing to offer the Latin American region. Also, in the past weeks, we had important visitors. Honorable Michael Kozak, Under-Secretary of State, and last month, Ambassador Robert O'Brien, National Security Advisor to President Trump. Their message was positive, and I quote, "Our government is interested in increasing the economic development of Panama by investing in infrastructure and energy projects. Also, in creating a joint force to combat corruption and money laundering. USPA is ready to reactivate contacts and presentations in order to gain more key players of trade and investment on both sides of the equation. We are fully aware there will be new methods to conduct global commerce. And as the world returns to normality, we will have to reinvent our promotion tactics and incorporate more sophisticated technology support. Following that logic and being one of the senior members of USPA, we accept the challenge and will start passing the pointer to younger blood. They will bring the know-how and we will provide the know-who. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My congratulations to all our members and God bless both our countries. Good night.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Alfaro, for an excellent presentation of USPA and for quoting Ambassador Kozak's statement during his recent visit to Panama, in that the US government is interested in increasing the economic development of Panama by investing in infrastructure and energy projects, and also in creating a joint force to combat corruption and money laundering. Your turn now, Ambassador Sosa.
Panama and the United States and their economies enter in the difficult post-coronavirus era. This is nothing new for Panama and the United States. Throughout the years, the two countries have faced challenges, overcome them, and forged a solid relationship. 30 years ago, Panama lost 1/4 of its gross national product during a confrontation between the Panama Defense Forces and the government of the United States. It needed to reshape its relationship and channel it towards positive initiatives with common interests for both countries. That was the reason why USPA was founded 25 years ago. And it's appropriate that we celebrate that historic milestone with such an important conference. And I commend my good friend, Ambassador Enrique de Obarrio, USPA's past presidents, and all of the friends that had to do with the implementation of this conference. From the beginning, we understood that this needed to be a binational effort, the United States and Panama. In the United States, former member of Congress and chairman of the Western Hemisphere Committee, Michael Barnes, former president of the Republican Party, Frank Fahrenkopf, and myself joined forces in Panama with Joaquin Vallarino, president of the CICIP, Kaiser Bazan, former ambassador of Panama to the United States, and business leader Arturo McGowan. For those of us that have been part of this journey, we knew we needed to incorporate private and public sectors of both countries and chart a common course. In the last 25 years, we have seen the peaceful transfer of the Panama Canal in December 1999, the signature of an Overseas Private Investment Corporation Treaty, the negotiation of a free trade agreement, and accords in the areas of finance, security, and trade. And more recently, we became part of the America Growth Initiative led by the United States and was able to start an LNG terminal, which shows the leadership of the United States as an exporter of hydrocarbons. Throughout the years, we have seen prestigious U.S. companies such as Chevron, Caterpillar, Procter & Gamble, Dell, 3M, SSA Marine, Kansas City Southern, and others expand their presence in Panama. And we have seen stellar Panamanian companies such as Copa Airlines become the bond and the link between the United States and South America through its Hub of the Americas. The relationship has been good for both countries. As we look into the future, we see a world looking for answers, a world seeking a vision. But we also see the United States interacting more with the Americas in bringing the supply chain closer to its borders, a role which Panama is eminently prepared to fulfill. In the last 25 years, USPA has implemented 78 different programs, 588 events, has introduced branding, exclusive branding of programs such as Panama Week, Panama Spectacular, Expo Trans, Panama Week Texas, and has become the heart of the relationship, recognizing through its Friendship Award those Americans and Panamanians who have helped to strengthen the relationship. We congratulate USPA in its 25th anniversary and thank all those friends that have cooperated with their leadership and support, and invite them to continue doing so in the next 25 years. And may God bless the United States of America and Panama. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sosa, for your kind words. We are also grateful for such vivid recollections of USPA's history, the reasons behind USPA's initiatives, and their positive impact, and for your service to our country. And to learn about the perspectives of both governments for the purpose of moving forward on such special and mutually beneficial bilateral relations between the two countries and peoples, we are honored to have here with us Ambassador Michael Kozak, Acting Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere, and an old and good friend of Panama, and also my friend, Dr. Alejandro Ferrer, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama. Ambassador Kozak, thank you very much for being here with us this evening. We really appreciate it. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be with the U.S.-Panama Business Council again. I'm proud to have known this council for many years. I have seen the good work it has done to modernize Panama's business environment. The council has long recognized the private sector as the best driver of development in the region. In the post-COVID-19 era, that role will grow. Happily, Panama is a business environment leader in the region, having already embraced a 21st century business model that values transparency and respect between partners. The government of Panama will rightly dedicate considerable resources to protecting its citizens from the pandemic, with help from the United States and other friends. We've already provided $4.6 million in assistance to Panama. The U.S. donated 50 life-saving ventilators to Panama, and Taiwan donated 50 as well. More are on their way. It's thanks to our strong relationship with your country. But the private sector and organizing bodies like the Council will help Panama recover from the pandemic, creating a solid foundation for a bright future. The United States is the top trading partner for over 2/3 of the countries in the region, including Panama. We are the source of over $1 trillion of investment in the region. We have free trade agreements with 12 countries in the Americas, including Panama. U.S. goods and services trade with the Western Hemisphere totals nearly $2 trillion annually. That's trillion with a T. In Panama, we are the top user of the canal, and there are more U.S. companies represented there than from any other country. Unlike some of its neighbors, Panama has worked hard to create institutions that attract investment, create opportunities, and foster entrepreneurs in a wide range of activities. As a result, Panama is less vulnerable to the predatory practices of unscrupulous investors, but it still must remain vigilant. That's where the private sector comes in. Thanks in part to the Council, Panama is ready to participate in important initiatives focusing on high-quality private sector investment. For example, Panama was the first country in the world to sign an MOU under our flagship initiative, America Crece. America Crece channels the resources and expertise of the U.S. government to attract private sector investment, including in energy, transportation, and telecommunications infrastructure. We just signed a new MOU with Panama that expanded beyond the initial scope of the energy sector. It creates choices for the Council and other private sector actors in this competitive market. For example, the U.S. energy company AES has invested more than $1.4 billion in new generation facilities in Panama. Its liquefied natural gas plant and terminal, AES Colon, is the largest U.S. investment in the country. It is the first LNG terminal in Central America, and I was honored to attend the inauguration of the terminal, facility this last fall. As the region's economy began to reopen, the United States is now, more than ever, the trusted, reliable partner, and we are hard at work to remain so. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and the Chief Executive Officer of the new U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, Adam Bowler, visited Panama a few weeks ago. Their trip highlighted the private sector-led engagement and trade based on fairness and market access that we favor. The Council has promoted Panama as having a 21st century business framework and that is transparent, above board, and modern. From the energy sector with its myriad possibilities to the ports with their vast Panamanian-led improvements in the infrastructure associated with the canal, the Council has encouraged investment to drive job creation and grow the economy. Your country has become an important logistics platform for the entire world. Part of Panama's 21st century approach includes preparatory work in the fields of cybersecurity and 5G. The Council and others know the importance of maintaining a reliable, resilient communication system, free from suspicion of vulnerabilities and threats. Having an unfair, unbalanced, and unsustainable trade environment, many companies will consider leaving China to look for other locations for their investments. We hope that they will all come to the United States, but we acknowledge Panama will be stiff competition given how attractive it is to foreign investors. We welcome that competition. Panama is a shining example in the Western Hemisphere of cooperation between the government and private sector. Its democratic institutions guarantee the rule of law and adherence to established norms. Panama understands the importance of high-quality, transparent, inclusive, and sustainable foreign investment. These are values that the United States and Panama share. The Council has supported Panama in developing and fine-tuning this model for 25 years, and the U.S. looks forward to seeing its accomplishments during the next decades. The U.S. supports you in continuing your work to make Panama's investment climate the best it can be. I thank you, and again, congratulations to the Council on its anniversary.
Thank you, Ambassador Kozak, for your recognition of the Council's relevant role, and most importantly, for your good and positive words in favor of Panama and the solid partnership between our two countries. Dr. Ferrer, if you please.
It is an honor and a pleasure to give you the opening remarks on behalf of the Panamanian government and welcome you all to this event where we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the United States-Panama Business Council. I commend and congratulate President Luchinger, the organizer Enrique A, and all the Panamanians and Americans that have served in USPA. Over the years, this organization has provided valuable service to both our nations. I, for one, can personally attest all the work you have done through the years. I saw it firsthand from the Panamanian Embassy in Washington during the first years of the Council, and later during the negotiations of the TPA with the US. In a way, I can say that I have seen the Council be born, grow, and mature. I have seen it contribute to strengthening our bilateral relations and work hard to bring our private sectors together. Next week, on October 1st, we will also be celebrating the 41st anniversary of the entry into force of the Torrijos-Carter treaties. On that morning in 1979, the railroad, the Port of Cristobal, Cocosolo, the Franceville Airport, and many others reverted to Panama. On that day, a reversion calendar was set in motion. However, something far more important happened. A wound immediately began to heal, and a new era started to materialize, based on our right as a nation to be the sole owner and sovereign of our territory, our canal, and our destiny. A new chapter of the Panama-US relation was born, based on mutual respect, cooperation, and common benefit. We began to write the new pages of our common history. A small country and a superpower negotiated in good faith. Jimmy Carter assumed a historic challenge and faced a wall of incomprehension, in the end, paying a high political cost. But President Carter and Omar Torrijos signed a treaty that showed the world that diplomatic negotiations were the way to solve disputes among nations. It launched a new era of mutual understanding, cooperation, and friendship between our two countries that has allowed us to share what is today a close, special, and strategic relationship. Panama and the United States share bonds that are unbreakable, as they have been forged by trial and time. Our history is one of taking on great challenges, one of great enterprises, and one of shared values. The American presence in Panama has a significant footprint. The U.S. is our main trading partner, the top user of the Panama Canal, and the largest foreign investor in our country, all of which translates into opportunities and employment for our people. In the past and a half year, both governments have worked together to further our common interest, improving our security, strengthening the rule of law, combating organized crime, collaborating in the fight against drug trafficking and money laundering, and promoting economic and social development. As Ambassador Kozak just mentioned, Panama was the first country to sign an MOU under the America Crece initiative. Today, we continue to work closely together to build a better future for our people, to promote democracy and respect of human rights, and to confront some of the most pressing challenges in the region. In these critical times, our nations have once again demonstrated their commitment to each other, standing in solidarity during the fight against COVID-19. The U.S. government has been generous in its support, providing aid and medical equipment, and we are grateful. Panama also shows solidarity and provided assistance to the Sandam and Rotterdam cruise ships whose passengers had outbreaks of COVID, and then allowed them to transit through the canal so they could return to Florida and receive medical assistance. Today, our countries and the world face not only a health emergency, but because of its magnitude and impact, an unprecedented economic and social crisis that unfortunately is already having an adverse effect on employment, poverty, and social development. This pandemic has redefined the way we connect with each other, the assumptions we held. It has challenged us, has tested the resilience of our societies, and has reminded us all that regardless of where our countries are in our development journey, the daunting challenges we face can only be addressed through solidarity and international cooperation. Economic reactivation needs to be a priority to restore employment and income. Social safety programs are a moral responsibility because this crisis has affected us all, but not equally. It is the most vulnerable sectors of all of our societies that have felt the brunt of the pain and the severity of the impact. We will get back on our feet, all of us, together. It will be extremely challenging, but we will do it. Beyond that, we must understand the crucial role that the private sector has to play, as well as the importance of the support and solidarity of our friends and allies. This event, this council, is a living example of just that, how two countries, together, our government and our private sector, will be the key to our respective recoveries. In these trying times, your work and determination is more relevant and needed than ever. We need to bear in mind that we will be laying the grounds for a future. We are all fighting to get back to normality, but we should aspire not only to rebuild, but to redesign our economies and societies, to enjoy not only a prosperous society of law and order, but also a more resilient one based on fairness and solidarity. Our geographic location, the infrastructure that we have built over the years, and our business climate allow us to look forward with hope and great expectations in spite of the uncertainty that we faced. COVID has challenged us all to innovate, to rethink the way we partner, while it has also presented us with daunting challenges ahead. However, this is not the first challenge Panama and the US has overcome. It is not the first challenge where Panamanians and Americans have come together to build the impossible. Our nations understand the true power of partnership, and that gives me the confidence that we will do it together. We are ready to build back better, to embrace together the challenges that will come in the post-COVID world, where we will find old and new obstacles to overcome. I firmly believe that a close partnership between Panama and the United States will be crucial in the efforts to rebuild the future that we want and our people deserve.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferrer, for your important message. A wise, caring, inspiring, and positive message. As always, putting the people and country's interest first. Thank you for your leadership in taking care of our country's foreign affairs. And now, to share with us their views on how to reaffirm the long-lasting special ties between both of our countries, we have assembled for you a distinguished group of panelists, including, in this order, Ambassador Carmen Gisela Vergara, Executive Director, Pro-Panama, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Panama. Carlos Giraldo, Senior Vice President, Global and Latin America and Caribbean Development Markets, Procter & Gamble. Ilya Espino de Marotta, Deputy Administrator General, Panama Canal Authority. And Stanley Motta, Chairman, COPA Holdings and President of SUMARCE, the most relevant corporate social responsibility organization in Panama. We will begin with Ambassador Carmen Gisela Vergara, who will be talking about Panama, a country of opportunities for all. Ambassador Vergara.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for USPA to have invited us to be part of this panel of stars that you have gathered tonight to talk about Panama and to talk about the relationships between Panama and the United States, which, as our Minister of Foreign Affairs has just stated, are blooming and being the United States our main commercial partner in many respects. It is only fitting that we talk about these relationships between Panama and the US. I will ask you to tell me if you can see my screen so that I can continue with the presentation. Can anyone tell me if they can see my screen, please?
I can see it clearly, Gisela.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're going to talk very briefly tonight and just set the stage for the other panelists, who I'm sure will be more eloquent than myself in explaining to you all of the advantages that Panama has to offer in the relationship between Panama and the United States. First of all, please allow me to just comment on Pro-Panama very briefly. We were created last year with the government of President Laurentino Cortizo, and as part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, mainly to use our foreign services, all of the embassies and consulates, including the Embassy of Panama to the United States, as the arm in which we rest all of our investment and export promotion actions that we do around the world in order to, on one side, bring investments to Panama, and on the other side, get our export products to the markets. Now, I am going to go very briefly through this. This is just Panama's facts and figures for you to get a picture of what we are and who we are as a country. And as you can see from these facts and figures, Panama is a country that was well on its way to have the stability and the commercial numbers that we had a decade ago. But unfortunately, the pandemic has changed that, well, for everybody around the world. Still, the main characteristics of Panama have remained unchanged. And this is why Minister Ferrer was saying that due to all of these characteristics, Panama will recover. And with the help of the private sector and allies like the United States, it will recover even faster. And every time we make a presentation about Panama, the first question I am asked is, why Panama? Why Panama amongst all of the other alternatives for FDI that countries offer all over the world? And basically, these are some of the reasons that we think that Panama's offer is so interesting for investors. But the main reason for me is the fact that all of these characteristics are found in Panama. And many other countries can claim that they have privileged geographic position, or that they use the US dollar as legal currency, or that they have commercial openness. And the fact that all of these reasons are compiled in a country like Panama, in the center of the American continent, with world-class logistic platform that spins off the Panama Canal, and the use of the US dollar since we became a republic. Before countries started dollarizing, Panama was already using the US dollar, which gives the transactions here in Panama a special security for those investors who believe in the Panamanian market. And a proof of that is the International Banking and Financial Center of world renown that we have in Panama, where we have banks from 22 countries around the world doing operations of every kind here in Panama. And the political and legal stability that we have through our free elections and through the laws that support all of the transactions that you can do in Panama. The excellent quality of life. Panama is a country that has everything, and the city of Panama is a cosmopolitan city where you can find all of the things that you find in cities all over the world, but with the characteristic of a small town where everybody knows everybody. And so you will make friends very quickly, and you will find churches to worship in your religion, supermarkets with the food that you like to eat, whether you come from China or the Middle East or wherever in the world that you come from to live in Panama, you will find yourself welcome here by the people of Panama, and you will find anything that you need here. On top of that, we have high-tech medical services of international prestige, and to show that we have hospitals from the United States here in Panama, and doctors and physicians that have been educated in the best universities and hospitals all over the world, giving their services here in Panama. We also have stability in investment regimes, and we have a specific law that will guarantee that you get those special incentives for 10 years, even if the laws that you initially contracted with are changed, so that you can have stability in planning the return on your investment from Panama. And we have world-class communication infrastructure, because actually the 7 fiber optic cables that connect North America and South America with the Caribbean and Asia go through Panama physically. And we are underway to build 2 more fiber optic cables, which would bring us up to 9 and bring the communications to another level here in Panama. We are also virtually free of natural disasters. So for those companies that are intensive in communications like data warehousing, Internet of Things, etc., Panama is the place to be, because also we have a special law that protects the information from warehouses, data warehouses here in Panama. And we are going to see now some of these characteristics specifically. Like, for instance, we are one of the most connected countries around the world by sea, air, and also telecommunications. And in this graphic, you can see the 7 fiber optic cables I was talking about in red, all of the air routes from the COPA hub that's from here, from the Tucumán airport, and all the sea routes that spring from the Panama Canal and the ports that we have here in Panama. But we are also connected through free trade agreements. And of course, we have a free trade agreement with the United States, but also we have free trade agreements with 61 countries through the 21 free trade agreements that we have approved here in Panama. And that gives investors access to 1.3 billion potential consumers all over the world if they were to manufacture and re-export from Panama. We are also a country of sustainable economic growth. And before the pandemic hit, well, you can see that Panama, which is the green line, it's clearly above the Eurozone, North America, and Latin America, and the Caribbean. Even in the years of economic instability around the world, we had a steady economic growth over all of these other areas of the world. Now, talking about export products and import products, these are the main export and import products that we have here in Panama. And as you can see, we export mainly commodities and we import finished goods. We are trying to change this, adding technology to our industrial and agricultural sectors so that we can add more value to the products that we export and diversify our export products. Now, with the United States, as Ambassador Kozak and also Minister Ferrer have already stated, we have the free trade agreement. What Minister Ferrer did not say in his speech was the fact that he was the one in charge of the negotiations of the free trade agreement, which culminated in 2007, and then it took a couple of years in order to pass through Congress. But here in Panama, it passed almost immediately and unanimously through the Panamanian Congress. And that has led us to increase the relationship that we had exporting and importing from to and from the United States. Having said that, as you can see, the balance between the two still leaves a lot of room to grow from exports from Panama to the United States. But of course, we also welcome products from our commercial partner here in Panama. And going into the investment areas, because of time, I'm not gonna get to all of the investment opportunities that Panama has to offer, but at the end of the presentation, you will get all of the information to contact ProPanama. And please, if you need more information about a specific sector that I haven't covered in this presentation, let me know and we will be very happy to send you the information. So as I said, going into the investment sectors, last year we approved a law to promote public-private partnerships. This is the first time that Panama has a law to promote public-private partnerships. And to us as an investment promotion agency, this is very good news because now we will have a portfolio of projects specifically designed to attract specific investors from all over the world. And because of the relationship we have with the United States, we thought investors from the United States would be interested in this kind of opportunity to build infrastructure projects that the government needs, high-end and large social and economic investments that the government has planned for in the strategy of public-private partnerships. Things like roads, energy projects, telecommunications, the building of public buildings and bridges, and transportation and water treatment and ports and waste management and many others that will comprise this portfolio of projects. So if you're interested in learning more about this public-private partnership law, please contact us and we will be very glad to share more information. Now the logistics hub. This is the main attraction. The reason why we promote other areas for investment is because we have, of course, at the center, the Panama Canal, the ports that have developed operations here in Panama because of the Panama Canal, the railroad, which precedes the Panama Canal and also was built by the United States when the gold rush from California started to bring the gold to Panama and from here to the east coast of the United States. So it was the first interoceanic railroad, and it still works today, moving 650,000 TEUs per year. It serves as a dry canal and it runs parallel to the Panama Canal. Now the Panama Canal has access to 144 maritime routes, and that means that 11 of the shipping lines that offer services all over the world have services from Panama. And 5 of the 10 ports, the 10 top ports of Latin America are here in Panama. And we have service to 160 client countries through the 144 maritime routes that the canal serves. But also to complement this offer, it's the air transportation. And as I said, we have the COPA hub here at the Tocumen Airport, which had flights to 89 destinations, direct flights from Panama, up until 2019 before the pandemic hit. And we are very confident that we are going to recover those numbers and also grow from there, offering services as not only a transshipment center for cargo, but also for passengers for the region. And because we have this logistics services center, we have several investment regimes, and we have over 50, so I'm not going to get to all of them, but these are the main ones that we are promoting because they are linked to the logistics services center. And you have specific laws that promote the manufacturing of goods like Panama Pacifico and the free zones, which are laws that allow you to have special immigration or migratory and labor and tax incentives to manufacture products in Panama and using the logistics strategy or the logistics platform from Panama, export those goods to the region. And as it was mentioned in one of the previous presentations, the nearshoring concept, we are also taking advantage of and looking for companies that would like to manufacture in Panama, making use of the excellent opportunities and incentives that these laws have to offer so that they can get closer to their target markets using the logistics service center from Panama. We also have the City of Knowledge, which was created inside one of the ex-US military bases that reverted when the treaty ended in 2000. And this area is used now for universities of all over the world to have training courses and services here in Panama to promote the student tourism here. But also it has research centers and a technology park with companies that use the research centers in order to advance their technology products within the park. Then of course we have the historic Colón Free Zone, the largest free zone in this continent and the second largest in the world after Hong Kong. It's 400 and almost 400 hectares of land where companies do business of repackaging and re-exporting goods. It's not a manufacturing center, but it uses the logistics center to bring goods to and from different markets using the services of the logistic platform here in Panama. And the multinational headquarters law, which was enacted also in 2007, and it allows for companies to give services to themselves from Panama in research and development, logistics, financial services, etc., marketing, consulting, different services that the companies give inwards to themselves, and they can centralize those operations in Panama, making it easier for them to distribute those services to the other factories or companies that they would have within the region. So with that, I hope that this very fast and small presentation of the many, many opportunities that Panama has to offer leaves you with questions and interest to know more about Panama. And I'm sure the colleagues in the panel are going to be able to talk more in depth about all of these opportunities. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Vergara, for your clear insight on our country's many comparative and competitive advantages, ideal to attract direct foreign investment. Now let us hear from Mr. Carlos Giraldo, top head for Procter & Gamble in the region. Carlos.
Thank you, Enrique. Good evening to everyone connected. I want to take a moment to thank the US-Panama Business Council for organizing this event and for the invitation to participate in the panel together with my colleagues. In 2008, Procter & Gamble P&G decided to set its Latin American regional headquarters in Panama. Our journey has been a success, one of full cooperation, trust, and continuous improvement. I'm gonna talk about this in the following 10 minutes. Let me connect my presentation, please. Okay, I was invited to share our success story in Panama. I think this panel is also a great opportunity for P&G to thank Panama for the warm welcome and the continued positive relationship we have had. Hopefully this can be an example to follow for companies represented in the audience. Let me talk a little bit about P&G. P&G is a US-based multinational company with headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio, and global sales of $71 billion. The company was founded 180 years ago. We manufacture and commercialize well-known consumer products under very popular brand names such as Pantene, Head & Shoulders, Tide, Pampers, Gillette, to mention a few. Our products are currently sold in around 180 countries worldwide. Procter & Gamble was the first multinational company to launch operations under the Multinational Companies Headquarters legislation back in 2008. From here, from Panama, we managed the entire Latin American operation, from Mexico to Argentina, coordinating innovation for the entire region, 17 manufacturing plants, 13 distribution centers, and 3 regional hubs, one in Brazil for research and development, one in Costa Rica for shared services, and also the Central America and Caribbean region is managed from here, from Panama. Today, this sounds quite straightforward, quite simple, but back then in 2008, to move 700 families to Panama was a big challenge from many angles. I can tell you that P&G at that time quickly put the newly enacted multinational companies headquarters legislation to the test. But why do we consider Panama a success story? Let me tell you. First, our Panama Business Center here in Panama mirrors the diversity of our consumers in Latin America. And this is important because this allows us to better understand them and provide the region with the innovation and solutions to everyday problems P&G consumers love. Second, due to the warm welcome since day one, the quality of life in Panama, today around 40% of our employees have chosen Panama as their home country. I can tell you that I am a good example of that with my family. After 9 years in Panama, we proudly call Panama our home. The representation of Panamanian talent has been increasing year after year, and today is around 20%. Third, Panama's connectivity has been essential to facilitate first-hand rapport with Latin American consumers, markets, and operations. And finally, and very important, the permanent dialogue and cooperation with the government has been key. The support that we have received by all entities has been of great value, and we have been invited to cooperate in the identification of opportunities to improve the multinational companies headquarters legislation. Modestly aside, I can tell you that we have been an ally for all government administration to seek and implement alternatives that allow the multinational companies legislation to become the success it has been for over 12 years now. We really applaud the permanent interest from government administration to continually upgrade the multinational companies headquarters legislation, always trying to meet very strict international standards. As you can see, our experience in Panama has been a very positive one. But for us in P&G, a success story is not only told by commercial success. For us, a success story includes to generate a positive impact in the communities we operate in. Being a good corporate citizen is part of our DNA, and we have built this citizenship into our business, and it is not only doing good, it is been building trust and creating value as a force for good and as a force for growth. The force for good and force for growth concept is important for us. It is, of course, our duty to shareholders and investors, but it goes beyond that. We also serve our employees, our business partners and suppliers, governments, and the world around us, meaning the communities. Our citizenship platform is built in, not bolted on, and it is how we do business every day around the world, and Panama is not the exception. We want to be good corporate citizens in 4 pillars: community impact, diversity and inclusion, gender equality, environmental sustainability, all of this under our ethics and corporate responsibility frame. In Panama, we have worked in all 4 pillars, but for the sake of time today, I'm gonna talk a little bit about our community impact. I think this is the most relevant topic today, given the audience and given the global crisis we are experiencing around the globe. Since our arrival in Panama, we have witnessed the country's development, and we have actively participated in several important projects in many fields. Let me mention some of them. First, in terms of education, it is not a secret that P&G has had an impact on international education standards with our active partnership with the International School of Panama, the ISP. We helped United Way to establish its Panama chapter in 2010. United Way is a global partner with focus in early childhood development. More recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we activated our emergency relief programs, offering support to more than 100,000 people in need by donating our hygiene products. Also, we have supported the health professional community that is working in the front lines, providing personal protective equipment together with more than 140,000 loads of Ariel detergent destined to COVID-19 treatment facilities and hospitals. Last but not least, let me tell you about the Children's Safe Drinking Water Initiative. Here you can see this is the P&G water purifier sachet that transforms 10 liters of dirty water into clean water in just 30 minutes. This is a global nonprofit initiative. The product is not for sale. It is donated to communities in need all over the world. The product was invented by the P&G Research and Development team in Cincinnati, and Panama was the first country in Latin America with the program established. Up to now, I can tell you that we have donated over 50 million liters of clean water, and this is extremely important. Simply providing clean, drinkable water can reduce the risk of disease and death by about 50% in children. And we are very, very proud of having worked with the different administration in order to provide that benefit to the Panamanian community. So in summary and in short, our success story is related to a full integration with Panama in all fronts, from government entities to suppliers to the society and the communities. It is related to an open dialogue, generating trust and credibility. Our goal is to humbly remain stepping up as a force for good and as a force for growth for Panama. We will continue offering our company's talent and knowledge to keep working side by side with Panama to help draft and implement modern policies and projects as we have done in the recent years. And I also want to reiterate our commitment, especially to my panel colleague today, Ambassador Carmen Gisela Vergara, to continue helping promoting Panama as a successful foreign investment destination country as we are trying to do today. Thanks for having me in this evening. If somebody is interested in knowing more or want more detail about our successful experience in Panama, feel free to contact me. You have my email there, or contact us in P&G. Happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giraldo, for sharing with us Procter & Gamble's success story, operating in and from Panama to the entire region. We could not leave out of this event the Panama Canal, of which the U.S. is a #1 user. And who better to talk to you about its sound operations and investment opportunities there than engineer Ilya Espino de Marotta, Deputy Administrator to the Panama Canal Authority. Madam.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to USPA for inviting me tonight in their 25th anniversary. Mr. Giraldo, I'm going to ask you to unshare your screen so I can share mine.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. Sorry.
So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So I'll talk a little bit about the Panama Canal in more recent days during COVID times. Here we go. So this is a picture of the Atlantic side of the Panama Canal. You know, we recently underwent an expansion. It was inaugurated in 2016. We transit normally about 13,000 vessels a year, and plus or minus 252 million tons of long tons cargo. Leading countries, our biggest clients are USA, China, Japan, Chile, Mexico, South Korea, Colombia, and Peru. We do have some routes competing with the Panama Canal. Our main route, the most important one, is the US East Coast with Asia, which is a 22-day nautical mile, 22 days. Suez Canal, which is one of our competitors. We also have the Cape of Good Hope, and Asia to the west coast of USA, and then doing the intermodal system. But Panama is very competitive, and we have a very big market. Right now, we have the biggest market of all of our competitor routes. Like Ambassador Ferrer mentioned, we, and Carmen Gisela also, we do have a big heart in Panama, and we were able to give humanitarian help to Sandam and Rotterdam in their transit when no ports in South America wanted to receive them. So we actually did a very unique transit that day, even though these are Panamax vessels. We went through the Neo-Panamax locks. We had some pilots volunteered, and we minimized contact with our crewing people because pandemic times is very important for us to keep the health of our employees. And we were very successful on making these two transits in record time and safe for everybody. Some of the issues we had during the pandemic is, you can see here the number of transits of deep draft vessels. You can see a drop between April and August on what we had forecasted, but we've seen those numbers in the month of September coming up, and you can see that it's improving. And these are the commodities that come through the Panama Canal. We have containerized cargo, dry bulk, coal and coking coal, vehicle carriers, LNG. These are our main trades that come through the canal. You can see there was some impact, like I showed you in the earlier chart. Containers had some difficulties, LNG, but the segments that were hit the most were car carriers and cruise liners. These are our main users. United States #1. China and Japan have been between second and third. We did have a little bit of impact with the US-China trade issues, but they're back on #2 again. Japan, Chile has remained pretty steady. We have a big commerce also from the west coast of South America to Europe and to the east coast of USA. South Korea is also a recipient of LNG from the USA. So is Japan and China. Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and Canada. And 72% of the transits that come through the Panama Canal do touch one of our ports, either in the Pacific side or the Atlantic side. We can see the participation of the different segments, containers. It's the 18% transit participation, but is our biggest load factor, let's say, 34.6%. We have dry bulk, and something that we are doing, we just announced that today we will implement 50-foot draft for our customers like dry bulk and chemical tankers, providing a good and reliable service. We have LNG, gas carriers, car carriers, passengers, general cargo, reefers, and other small vessels. So these are the main segments that come through the Panama Canal. We can see here the performance of the Neo-Panamax locks since we inaugurated in 2016, container vessels being our main user of the Neo-Panamax locks. The main challenge that we have is technology changes. We're looking into technology. I think the COVID, this pandemic, has brought to the forefront the importance on technology changes, on digitalization. So we're really looking into that. I think the pandemic has done expedited anything that was in the works in that sense. We are, like I mentioned, we did see some decrease on world maritime trade post-COVID. The other issue that has impacted us is safety and sanitary safety. We had to take a lot of new precautions. We did not shut the canal. It operated through, and has been operating through the pandemic. We actually downsized to about 50% of the workforce at some point in time. We stopped maintenance projects to make sure that people were safe at home, but we continue with transit uninterrupted during the whole time. And we are back to full force again as of June 8th with everybody working maintenance projects again. And one of our biggest challenge is the water issue. We've been having less rainfall in the last 5 years. We see that we're kind of below average. We can see here the red dotted line is the average rainfall. And you can see since 2012, 2020, we've been pretty below. So we've been analyzing water projects for the last 4 years. Actually, 2016, when we inaugurated the new locks, we actually have to give some draft restrictions. So we've been analyzing different projects because we've seen a change in the pattern, the climate pattern. We see long droughts, then we see very heavy rains where we have to spill water because we don't have enough storage capacity. So we have performed quite a few studies to try to resolve the problem. We need water. The Panama Canal lakes provide water, drinking water for 50% of the population in Panama because the main cities, Colón, Panama, Chorrera, they take water from either Alajuela Lake or Gatun Lake. So we've analyzed quite a few projects, pumping water from the Bayano watershed, which is the reservoir, over to the canal lakes, realizing water treatment plant to repump into the lakes. We have also looked at making smaller dams within the Gatun existing lake to be able to store water at higher elevations, but separated from the main body of water because of the locks. They couldn't take much more elevations than we have. We have looked at the area of Rio Indio for a potential reservoir. We also analyzed potential desalination plants. So these are all the portfolios that the canal has been looking at. And we just put out a bid, well, we put a request for qualifications on September 7th of a project, a water management system project for the Panama Canal to provide an integrated solution to the water problem, so we don't have to give draft restrictions. This year, we implemented some water-saving measures, and we were able to give a very good draft for our transiting vessels. And luckily, we've had some rain this year, so between water-saving measures and more rain, we have provided a very good service during this dry season. So in the new project, the main functional requirements are additional fresh water, tributary inflows, like I mentioned a few examples, also additional storage capacity, and an integrated water management and control system. There's a holistic approach to it. Like I mentioned, resolve the variabilities between droughts and floods, the increase in human consumption. Gatun Lake was created in 1914, Alajuela Lake in 1939, and the country has grown significantly in the population, so we definitely need more water storage. So we're talking about that. And expected outcomes is guaranteed quantity and quality of potable water for human consumption. We want to implement digital transformation and real-time data governance and be adaptable and resilient to climate change. So the procurement strategy for this project is an engineering, procurement, and construction. The project will be delivered operationally and complying with the functions. The level of responsibility, the contractor assumes the responsibility for value proposition, engineering, installation, construction, and commissioning of the project. So the risk level of the technical part will fall within the contractor. And of course, the Panama Canal will do a risk assessment to share the risk of execution. We have some experience from the expansion of the Panama Canal to allocate the risk where the risk can be managed better. Relationship and communication, the project is organized between two parties, the Panama Canal and the EPC contractor, which reduces the need for a third expert hiring of monitoring of the project. Since we have the 9-year experience of the Panama Canal expansion program with a company that would be willing to develop this project, it would be a joint effort. So the pre-qualification process started September 7th. EPC methodology is compatible with the procurement regulations of the Panama Canal. It would be a best value negotiated contract modality. The maximum price, it will be established in the specifications. This is encompassed to be about a $2 billion project. We have used best industry practices to set out the contract using the American Society of Civil Engineers recommendations and also the Silver Book of Bidding to make it very standard. And target date to receive proposals for the RFQ is November 12th, hopefully with a very short evaluation period. We are pre-qualifying 5 different companies, and then those 5 different pre-qualified companies can participate in the request for proposal, which are targeting to put out in December 2020, with a target date of receiving proposals on August 2021, and then start date a month after that. So with that, I give you a little preview on what the Panama Canal is up to in these later days. And thank you very much for inviting me again.
Thank you, Ilya, for such wonderful, complete presentation. We can certainly be so proud of our canal and for its first world management by Panamanians for the benefit of Panama and world commerce. Now I have the honor to give you Mr. Stanley Motta, certainly one of the most relevant and successful businessmen in Latin America, and a true humble and righteous leader when it comes to social responsibility. Stanley.
Good afternoon to everyone. Carmen Gisela, Ilya, and Carlos, very good presentations. I did not bring a presentation because I felt by the time I was going to speak, everyone had seen enough slides. And I was going to concentrate basically on the experience that I've had and the experience that the United States has had in Panama. strangely enough, the oldest joint venture between the United States and Panama happens to be a venture that was done between a US corporation and the Panamanian government before we had a public-private law. It goes way back to Petro Terminal de Panama, which was a oil line to move the Alaskan oil to the East Coast. That was the original concept done, and it was done very quickly, built without plans. Just went across because it needed to get done. It was cheaper to do it quicker than slower. But Petro Terminal has a very good history of dealing with the Republic of Panama. It's survived the end of, let's call the Alaskan. It redid its pipeline in order to pump the other way, and it continues to operate. And it continues to operate, as I say, without noise, as a very good partnership between private sector of the United States and the government of Panama. My personal history is a history of several joint ventures with US companies. I go back a long way in this, and even recently done others. Ambassador Kozak mentioned one, which is the LNG plant in AES Colon, which we are partners along with AES in having built that after winning a public bid here in Panama to build the first LNG plant in the region. We built the plant in record time and now have finished the tank. We had to use a boat as a tanker for a while, but that got done and it's up and running and doing quite well. Probably the other two joint ventures that I'll mention tonight is one has been Manzanilla International Terminal, which is a container port in the Atlantic side. We've now been in business 25 years. And it's, I think, one of the real stories of Panama when you come here and you see how Panamanians have been able to develop and take over. We have even trained people here for other ports that our partners are involved in, or that we're involved in Chile and in Colombia. Today, all our crane operators are Panamanian. We trained them along the way. You will see modern equipment being used to manage the container yards, and you will see something that is really world-class. And people who understand the business, when you start moving 30 containers an hour on a crane, you're doing it at world-class rates. And obviously, the biggest joint venture that we did was COPA Airlines. When back in 1998, we did a joint venture with Continental, and that turned out to be a wonderful partner to help us grow the Hub of the Americas that served up to now 80 destinations, and now we're building them back as each country opens up the possibility of travel again. That was a story where I say it's still a joint venture with the United States because back in 2005, we listed COPA on the New York Stock Exchange, and a great amount of the shareholders are American. So we continue to be a joint venture with the United States. We have 3 American directors that are, 2 are independent, and one of them comes from United, our partner today in the alliance. And we have really looked back, and I look at each one of these things. The oldest being maybe MIT, then doing it with Continental, then doing it with AES. I would say that the great thing about doing business in Panama, what we've found with the American companies, is that we bring our values, we bring our vision, we bring our purpose, and we bring our corporate social responsibility also, a way of functioning. And I think when you put those things together, you end up having companies that last a long time and are not just profitable in the short run, but profitable in the long run. Obviously, the COPA story is a very successful one and a very difficult one right now in the hardest industry there probably is in the world right now, which is travel and leisure. But we are confident that we did the right thing. We protected our people, number one. We protected our balance sheet, number two. And now we're right-sizing the company, which is very difficult to do, in the most responsible way we can, hoping to bring people back to work as quickly as possible. But this is all part of the process that we all have to live in this COVID world. I think if there's two things to be learned from this COVID world, it's that the world was a lot more fragile than we ever imagined it to be. And we had to learn how to live with that. The second thing I think we've learned is that we need to build back better, and we will build back better because we're all learning in the process. But in this process, just as we're talking to people in the United States or people in Panama, I think the way I like to envision the future is that we need now to cooperate. We all need to sit around a round table, not across the table from each other, and build back together. It's going to take private enterprise, it's going to take the labor sector, it's going to take civil society, and it's going to take the government, all sitting at the table, understanding the alternatives, understanding the priorities, understanding how to keep the safety net in place for the population most needs it, and build back together. So really, all I can say is, like Carlos Giraldo said and the others, I'm at your disposal if you'd like to contact me, or if you'd like to understand better how we put together some of these joint ventures and measure. I've been involved in others with other American companies in other parts of the region. So I've gotten to know the United States quite well. And besides, even from a supplier standpoint, obviously COPA's relationship with Boeing is a special one, and one that we're managing today in a very difficult situation where both sides are talking and finding solutions to our problems to go forward. So I would say that Panama has a history of welcoming U.S. investment and cooperating with U.S. investment, both from the private sector, the government, society, and even the labor force. So thank you very much for having me. Congratulations on 25 years. They seem to pass very quickly because I sort of remember the beginning. And I wish you, much success in the future. And I hope that American companies, as soon as you can and as soon as you're willing, will come to Panama and really, kick the tires. There's nothing like coming to see what's going on and understanding what's going on, even though we're now living in this virtual world. So thank you, Enrique, for having me, and it's been a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Great message, powerful message. That's why you are our extraordinary ambassador at large. So now we will dedicate the remaining time for questions received for our distinguished panelists. And we will do so in the same order they gave their presentations to you. So, Ambassador Vergara, Carmen Gisela, how does Pro-Panama support foreign investors interested in doing business in Panama?
It's easy.
I'm sorry, I always forget that I have to put the microphone back on and then I start speaking. But thank you very much for the question. It will allow me to tell you a little bit of what we're doing here in Pro-Panama. Mainly, we work together with other ministries and government institutions to help the potential investors that come to Panama to get the appropriate information that they need to establish their investment, to get appointments with public and private sector entities or people that they would need that would be key in order for them to establish themselves here. We help them tour facilities in areas that they're looking for to invest, and we help them navigate all of the legal requirements and the local requirements for the investment laws that I mentioned in my presentation, because to get those incentives, companies have to comply with different requirements, and we also help them navigating all of that. But we had to rethink our services during the pandemic and going forward, because of course, most of the things that we did in order to attract foreign direct investment or to promote the export offer of Panama internationally, which was required travel and going to present fairs or to have the Panama Investors Day and the Panama Weeks, which you're familiar with. In USPA, we have done many through the years together. So all of those things disappear with the pandemic. So we had to create new ways to help investors and exporters. And we create a platform for virtual fairs. We created another platform for virtual roundtables. We recently inaugurated a white label within Connect Americas of the Inter-American Development Bank, where you have 500,000 companies from 200 countries around the world. And we have our own Panama page inside this, this platform so that we can do specific targeted training sessions and buying and selling sessions with the companies that we have here in Panama. We have also developed several agreements with the bilateral chambers that work here in Panama. Of course, we work with AmCham, but there are other bilateral chambers that we have been doing specific targeted actions in order to meet investors that are interested in specific areas in Panama. And so we guide them into that investment process. Right now we have in the pipeline over 12 investment opportunities from investors from Mexico, from the US, from the United Kingdom, and from several other countries that have manifested interest in different areas. And we are working with them in realizing their investment potential here in Panama.
Thank you, Carmen Gisela. I turn over to Carlos now. Carlos, you represent one of the most prominent US companies, showing a success story not only in Panama, but from Panama in the whole region. Which factors determined Procter & Gamble's decision to relocate its Latin America headquarters to Panama 12 years ago? Can you share with us your experience as the first among almost 160 multinationals which began operations taking advantage of the multinational company headquarters legislation? Carlos.
Thank you, Enrique. Sure, when we decided to move our regional headquarters for Latin America to Panama 12 years ago, there were very clear factors that made Panama stand out from other countries. Some of them were already mentioned by the ambassador. They were valid 12 years ago, and they are still valid. The economic and potential and political stability is extremely important for any company looking to set the headquarters in any country. Security in many fronts. Also, as mentioned by the ambassador, this is a territory that is free from natural disaster. This is extremely important when inviting employees to come to a foreign country. Financial services, very good. The logistic hub, and certainly the connectivity hub that makes business travel to the rest of the world incredibly easy here in Panama. Panama, we all know, has a very privileged geographical position, and this is quite obvious for everybody. But let me tell you that this is particularly true for our employees who travel very frequently to different countries in the region, North America, and even to the rest of the world. The airport in Panama is very agile and connections are very, very easy to make. I can tell you that from the 600 employees that we have in Panama today, almost half of them are traveling constantly, including myself. So this connectivity has been a key element for us or for them to have a better quality of life. having access to the airport so easily, having the connections so easily to make, translating to more time at home, more time for spending with the family and improving the quality of life. So many factors that I mentioned, just a few, that as I mentioned before, were very valid 12 years ago, and they are still very valid today.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Ilya, the Panama Canal in times of COVID-19 is a true case study, and you have talked about that at length. How has the pandemic affected container carriers through the Panama Canal? And which has been the most affected container route?
Well, we did have about 139 less transits this year, some of them for blank sailings, some of them because they canceled the service coming through the canal. About 800,000 TEUs have been impacted. Of those, I would say 70% is the East Coast of USA-Asia trade route has been one of the most impacted, and about 20% from West Coast of South America to Europe. So we've seen a drop, but like I said, our biggest drop in transits was from May until July. So August and September are looking like they're recuperating. It's a moderate pace, but we're very confident that we'll see better numbers in 2021.
Thank you very much, Ilya. Stanley, you're gonna love this question. As chairman of COPA Airlines, one of the most affected industries by the pandemic, as we all know, how are you guys moving forward?
Well, like I said earlier, the first thing was when you go from doing business to go to zero, it's quite a drop. It's quite a. The COPA executive team, led by Pedro Helbron, who's been the CEO now for 30 years, probably the oldest CEO in any airline in the world, together with the support of the board. Number one, as I said, took care of our people as best we could. Two was we always ran a very conservative balance sheet. So we started out the pandemic with about $900 million in cash. We didn't think that was enough. So we went to the markets and got another $350 million, issuing a convertible bond. And so that fortified our balance sheet even more. We are in the process now of beginning to operate. We are adding these destinations as we go. There's still a lot of fog out there. We really don't know whether we're dealing with pent-up demand or we're dealing with steady demand. We think things will change, but I think we have a very nimble management team. We have a low-cost mentality. One of the analysts the other day wrote a piece on COPA and said that other airlines talk about cost, and COPA talks about really lowering costs. So we've been always very responsible in trying to keep our cost line in line. We also have now taken the hit of selling our Embraers and retiring our 700s. As we go forward, the Embraers, we were able to sell them. Obviously, we took a loss on the books, but on a cash flow basis, we'll be taking in money from that sale. So it's a tough road for the airline industry, but we are well fortified to survive. And we think that people will continue to use the hub of the Americas as a way, as Carlos said, to connect themselves. And one of the things that we're sort of very proud of, I mean, we don't necessarily beat Miami to the Caribbean, but we do have more direct flights to more destinations than Miami does to Latin America. So when you think about connecting in Latin America, we actually have more flights because we serve the secondary cities, not just the capital city. We were serving Monterrey, Guadalajara, Cancun, Mexico City, obviously, In Brazil, there were 7 cities. In Colombia, everything, Barranquilla, Cartagena, Cali, besides just the Bogota. So when you look at, establishing yourself in Panama and the connectivity that we're trying to provide to the multinationals that are established here, they're important part of our business. And we think that all of that will continue to grow. So we think that the hub of the Americas will come back. It'll be a steep hill, but we're confident that we have the balance sheet and we have the people to do it.
I'm sure you do very well, Stanley. You're taking the right steps. We praise you for that. Well, we have come to the conclusion of this panel. On behalf of the U.S.-Panama Business Council and myself, I thank each and every one of you for your time, wonderful presentation, exchanges, and commitment to Panama and its people. We also thank the audience, in particular the hundreds watching us from the U.S. Let us all work now to reaffirm the relations between our two countries and peoples and strengthen our very special bilateral ties and friendship even more towards a shared prosperity and welfare for all. As the President of Panama, Laurentino Cortizo, mentioned yesterday evening, before the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly, we have to work on building a new society, more supportive, more equitable, fairer. We need to focus the attention of the collective on poverty and inequality, unquote. Reaffirming U.S.-Panama relations, strengthening the ties to foster friendship, promote direct investment for the creation of needed employment is certainly an effective way to do so. Now, for closing remarks, I leave you with Gerardo Peláez, a former U.S.-Panama Business Council president. Good evening.
Muy buenas noches.
Good evening.
On
On behalf of the U.S.-Panama Business Council, I want to thank all of you for attending this webinar in such a special month as we celebrate the anniversary of the Canal Treaties or Torrijos-Carter Treaty.
Our speakers here today have outlined the very long and lasting relationship that Panama and the United States have had over the years, which is bounded by a strong strategic partnership for the region. Our speakers also have revealed the new post-pandemic opportunities that will arise for both Panamanian and American business people. The profound changes in the international product manufacturing and the distribution chains, which have been taking place since the end of last year, has now accelerated. Being closer to the market, it's now a major goal of all logistical realignment processes of international companies. In the American region, this places Panama in a unique and very attractive position, so U.S. companies include Panama in their new operational design structures for the region and for the world. The proximity of Panama to major and very profitable markets in the Americas, the efficient passage of industrial and consumer goods between America's east and west coast through the canal, the robust international air connection of our airports, the extensive international voice and data communication network, plus an attractive tax base for multinational companies are some of the value propositions American companies will surely need to transfer part of their operations into Panama, as some other 158 companies from around the world have already done. The new way of producing and distributing merchandise on a global scale has placed the U.S.-Panama Business Council up front and center in all activities directed at attracting U.S. private investment into Panama. In the coming weeks, we will be communicating more of our activities in this year where we celebrate our 25th anniversary. Thank you very much and have a good evening.